This is NTV.
Hello viewers, good afternoon and welcome to the show. It's another edition of the Money and Market Show, but this time it is actually the Business X-Ray Show. I sometimes get wired to that. Yes, it is the Business X-Ray Show, and today we have a very interesting topic, and that's the topic of manufacturing. As you've seen in our video montage, Ugandans are quite entrepreneurial, but most of our entrepreneurship tends to start and end to selling of commodities. That's why you're going to find quite a number of shops in different areas in the central business district. But you're not going to find as many manufacturing units as that. And today we want to find out, for starters, why is this the case? And then also try to answer the questions of where it is actually possible for people to sit within this particular space. And we're not going to do that theoretically. We want to do that through the experience or experiences of an entrepreneur who is a manufacturer and is our guest this afternoon in the studio. But before I go any further, I'd like to introduce the guests we have in the house. Charles, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and I'm delighted to be right here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Our guest this afternoon is Alan. Alan, we are happy to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Boji. My name is Alan Nsima, and I am the Managing Director. I head Strategy and Growth at Rada Shoes. Thank you for having me. Strategy
and growth. Now that's quite something. So you better pull those pens and books quite closer. So the entrepreneur we have in the house today is not just your average entrepreneur. Charles, it's very rare to find someone who is, for lack of a better word, white collar and at the same time blue collar and doing it well. Yes, so
it is, and yet actually once you get that combination functional, you have a brilliant, unstoppable entrepreneur.
Indeed, indeed. So that's the gentleman we have in the studio today. So you would call him, in quotes, your elite, but at the same time, he's into the world of business and he has done some good work. So we're going to have a look at some of Alan's works. So I'm going to ask my producer to play for us that simple montage of Alan's enterprise and operations in a minute.
In 2014, I was in consultancy, and I had always had a passion or desire to do a business which can change my community, which can influence people. But then I looked around and I didn't know what to do. So as I was looking through consultancy and a lot of advisory, right, left and center, I landed on leather, Ugandan leather. And I realized that 95% of Ugandan leather is actually exported. And I picked interest. I said, why? And it's exported to Europe, it is exported to Asia, to China, and it never comes back. So I remember growing up, the biggest shoe you could put on is a used shoe. Not exactly good quality, but used. So I decided that I should pick interest. So I researched about what happens with leather in Uganda. And that's when I realized that even the biggest manufacturer who was making shoes was no longer working. So I said I should be interested in shoes manufacturing, but I didn't know which kind of shoes that I should make. So I made a bit of a study, and we ended up with a good business plan, which I thought was bankable by then. And we studied it about 6 months and realized that children who go to school actually walk on foot. And actually, for your information, about 75% of children in Uganda cannot access a good quality shoe. It is either not affordable or it is recyclable. They put on shoes for about 6 months, and either they are done or they are disposable, especially plastic shoes. So when I discovered that information, I realized that there is a big gap, that children walk 7 kilometers every day and do not have a pair of shoes in their foot. So we picked interest. We said, let's manufacture affordable, durable, and also dependable children's shoes for our country. And that's when we started in 2015, from 10 pairs to currently 200 pairs. What makes us different is that we are looking to manufacture very affordable shoes. Because when you look at the quality of shoes on the market, if it is a very first-class shoe, it is not affordable. You're talking about 100,000 Uganda shillings for an average pair. We want to put our shoes between 40,000, average of 40,000. Now we think that Ugandans who earn at least 300,000 shillings per month should afford their children a decent pair of shoes. A number of principles govern us to stay afloat, and one of them is that we have strict internal financial management. We make sure that our finances are strictly controlled, because every money that we make, every profit that we make per year, we continuously invest. When we invest in machines, we invest in people, we invest in training, so that we improve our quality. The other thing that helps us is we keep in touch with the lowest end user of our products, the last consumer of our shoes. We keep engaging them. We conduct periodical surveys to know how they rate our shoes. And we use that feedback to input into our managerial system to improve our quality, to improve our systems, to improve our processes. Since 2015, we have achieved a lot. We have grown from making less than 20 million in 2015, and by the end of the year, of last year, we made close to 1 billion shillings in sales. And for me, that is a big milestone. We have also grown our equipment. Equipment has grown. Imagine from 10 sandals in 2015 to 200 pairs of fine quality children's shoes. It is a big milestone. The third thing is that we have achieved in terms of engaging youth. Honestly speaking, when we started, we were 2 youth, myself and another colleague, making 10 sandals. Right now, we are talking about 34 youth who are full-time employed. The biggest challenge for any business has been finance. We have grown organically using our own internal finances, either from equity or from profits. So we've grown using our own money, but growth always sucks cash for any business. When you're investing in machinery, when you're investing in training, when you're investing in plant, it requires a lot of money. But what we've done is that we've worked closely with the banks, a number of banks, to give us finances. The other challenge is that I would talk about the price of shoes. Ordinary leather is a luxury. Leather is expensive. It's not easily available. But Ugandans want shoes of 20,000, especially for school. They want shoes which do not go beyond 30,000. But here we sell our shoes a minimum of 40,000. And then you find parents switching between using a pure leather shoe and using a plastic. But also it is a bit of an education requirement on our side to teach parents to know that a leather shoe will last you at least 3 years, especially a rubber shoe. Whereas a plastic shoe, you'll buy 20,000, use it for 3 months. We already have the machine that manufactures soles. That machine has a capacity of over 2,000 pairs every day. We have the machinery to stitch the shoes. We have trained manpower working with PSFU. We have the expertise. Our management is strong because they are trained, they are experienced in this industry. So we are going to move from 200 pairs to 1,000 pairs, possibly by close of next year. Also, you could have seen that some of our machines are out. We have already finalized plans. We have 2 acres of land, which we secured. We have developed our plans and designs. They have been approved by the authorities, and right now they're actually doing the grading of the land. So a big plant is coming up where we can have our process flowing.
To make a pair of shoes, you have to go through this process. One, we need to source. We have to source the material. What are these materials? Then after we've sourced, then we now bring them here at the what? At the factory. So the first step that we will do, we shall pick the leather and we cut it. So this is the machine that is used for cutting the leather, and it cuts it according to the shape that we want it to be. After we've cut here, brings the shape, because you know when we are getting this leather, some are big, they can't be joined. So this machine helps us in what? In bringing that thickness, reducing the thickness, so that we can what? We can join them together. After that, it is now from here that we always take these cuts that we've gotten from there to another room, which is the stitching machine room. There we make different sizes. We stitch different sizes of what? Of uppers. So from there, when different sizes are now stitched, we have these workers or the staffs. They go and we pick different sizes. From the picking them, we come back here with them. So we do the lasting. The lasting is getting a mold. I can get one. You get this mold, which is in the shape of a leg. Then you apply. You put the other upper, the other leather that you had cut and has been stitched onto it to formulate a shape of a leg of a human being. So when it forms that, then we are going to now come to where? A machine that we score. Scoring means bringing them to get in a form that can be sold. So we use this machine to what? To score these the uppers. Okay? So after we have scored, then we can sold.
In marketing, we really have at least basic principles that we look at. We have the principle of performance, we have the principle of comfort, and then we have the principle of affordability. Because we believe having leather, a new leather shoe, at a price of what we offer this shoe for our children's school shoes, which go for as low as 45,000 shillings, is really providing a product that is affordable to the market. We look at the point of performance. We guarantee our shoe a 3 years performance without being replaced.
Welcome back, viewers. We now have an idea of who our guest is and the kind of operation or its size that is engaged in. So, Alan, when I look at, of course, what we've seen, before I come to you, Charles, on this, I think this is very, very important. I mean, you're talking at income in the range of $1 billion annually. You're looking at hundreds of pairs of shoes churned out every day. You're looking at over 30 workers. I can see the structure, because when you see, I mean, you have a production manager there, you have a marketing manager there, and to crown it all, you're giving guarantees on product. Now, very few Ugandan products or producers can give you a warranty on their products. So it begs a question about Alan's background. I know you touched a little on where you began, consultancy, but paint for us a picture of who is Alan on that other side. Just want to know your background. And of course, I know the number of ladies and gentlemen out there watching and asking, how old is this gentleman?
Thank you, Charles. Yes. I have already introduced myself as Alan Nsima. I am 34 years old, and my background is business. I have studied a bachelor's of international business and also a master's in business administration at Makerere University, specializing in finance. Now, when I started out working in 2014, I asked myself a number of questions. How much money do I want to earn? And where do I want to work? And honestly, when I looked at it, I just like any other young man, you want to earn millions of money, and then the next job offer, they are giving you 300,000. Like, how will I reach there? But in that consultancy, I was very passionate about it. Now, my job position was a business advisory. So a number of people come in and are asking for advice here and there. My right supervisor, Mr. Charles Ntale, used to trust me a lot. So he would send me people to advise and give knowledge, and I was like, come on, Charles, I'm new to this industry, I even don't know what to say. So he told me to read a lot. So anyway, a number of clients come in, someone comes with 50 million and says, where do I invest it? And he's sent to me. I remember another one coming with $2 million US, was interested in hotels. And I had to put myself together to show where to invest in this hotel. And another client who came in to expand his business. He was already in business. He wanted to develop another branch in Nairobi. And I looked at the figures individually. I took the figures and projections to my boss. I said, come on, is this really so true that you put in so much and make so much? He cut down the figures and still the profits were ridiculous. Anyway, from the other question of how much money do I want to make, and having been exposed to a world of business ideas and advising this and that, I picked interest. I said, I should also advise myself. And that is the challenge with consultants. You advise people here, left, right, and center, and you can't advise yourself. So I said, I need to advise myself. So where do I start? A number of business ideas. When you log into the website, you see so many business. It's up to you to check whether this makes sense and that doesn't make sense. So I had 5 business ideas anyway, and I looked at them because I had the time, one by one. The intriguing case of leather, Ugandan leather, which is exported, hit my mind. I said, but then, how can I, me, who has grown up in Rukunjiri, fail to have a pair of shoes when the leather is Ugandan? And honestly, Charles, the Ugandan leather is one of the finest on the world market.
I keep hearing that.
So, yes, so we picked interest, we said, no, let me look into it much more deeply. Before I knew it, even the biggest player who was manufacturing shoes locally closed shop. I tried to establish why the story wasn't clear, but then I said, I must pick interest. So I picked interest. I wrote a business plan. Now that is so unconventional of Ugandans. I started from a point of a business plan. To be honest with you, the figures were wow. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was going to be a billionaire overnight. So that business plan kept pushing me, until about 8 months in 2015 when I decided to get started. And I decided to get started. Now I should tell you that when I got started, at that time I was earning 500,000 as my monthly salary. And here I have a business plan of over 1 billion shillings. And what do? So, but I knew to be an entrepreneur, you must start. There is no password, there is no passing left, right, and center. You must start. So, with that 500,000, I was staying in a very good apartment, Mr. Chichi. I think we were two guys, young guys, sharing it. And I kept buying one small machine after the other. We started with stitching machines of clothes, because these machines of shoes are not locally available. So we bought one machine, I put it in my sitting room. I bought another Katwe-made machine, I put it in my sitting room. Now at that point, you can't withdraw. Because, yes.
We'll get back to that.
All right.
I'm quite interested. You know, Charles, something intrigues me here, because many a time when we get these office jobs, we tend to get comfortable. Yeah. I mean, he's saying he had a nice apartment. I'm sure there were other accompaniments.
Yes.
Correct.
Have you ended up with that?
Correct.
So, but then someone says, you know what? I have to stretch a bit and go into this space of business. But even before that, you've seen the story from the montage of Alan.
Correct.
I don't know what your quick thoughts are and the key learnings for our viewers that you pick there.
Very good indeed. From the montage, you see a few things that are key for a beginner.
Yeah.
One thing that you noticed from his story was there are many people who wear shoes, and he said over 75% from the children's side are almost shoeless. But if you put the entire country together, many people need shoes. But he said, I need to start from where I can bite the thing and make it move. So he said, let me focus on the children. Let me focus on the children. So that's the very key point for an entrepreneur. The market there looks like the whole space is available for you. Pick where you can start that immediate first action. Then when he got started, he said, I am financially trained. And his emphasis was deploy his financial acumen and say, I will start with the resources I have, and I will save and reinvest as part of his principles. Saving and reinvestment therefore meant that there's what we call organic growth. The right of good dad, poor dad, rich dad said, if an entrepreneur cannot have internal growth, forget wealth. So right from the beginning, he appreciated that. We're about to go into PDM, Parish Development Model. If people cannot manage to save resources they are making and reinvesting, and expecting that because I got public resources somewhere else, forget wealth. That was a key point from him.
Indeed.
The second one was, as you are now building up this young baby enterprise, what was key was knowledge and growth in that space. So he said, feedback, 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 feedback. And he worked on the feedback. And as he was working on the feedback, he also said, there's another thing. As I get feedback, I need a competent team to translate the feedback into solutions. So you see the structure of his team there. There was a production manager. And when you saw Atiam talking, Atiam was speaking his space. When the marketing fellow called Atwine came, Atwine was speaking his space. That ability to now say, this thing is not just about two pair of hands. It's getting a team that I give my vision, and then I supervise them to run with it. Extremely, extremely, extremely key. But also he noted that there was a need to educate Ugandans. Here is a population yearning for shoes, and they are coming with one word, price. What is the price? I want the cheapest shoe. It is up to you now, the seller of a solution, to say, good, I want to teach you what we call value for money. This shoe is 40,000. It will last much longer. The other shoe that seems to be so cheap, but in 6 months you are repeating it. This one is 3 years. Now that is an element of building now the business skills. And I bring this out because there are many people who reduce starting and running an enterprise to just accessing money. These elements of this man's story and lessons are so fundamental to keep you in the market space. Otherwise, you get tempted to say, since the market is key about the lower price, what do I do about going for rubber material and calling it leather? Deceitfulness. And deceitfulness will give you a temporary
Reprieve also.
Yes, and then very quickly it will come bang, an egg on your face. You're a liar. This is not leather, and you'll be wiped out.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
Now, I like the promise of the marketing manager on the warranty.
Yes.
That was quite noble in a way.
Correct.
Now, Alan, coming back to you, of course, you know, you mentioned at the beginning, of course, you have this plan where you're seeing $1 billion.
Yes.
But then 500 is coming through. And then you wonder, when will I ever get to that point?
Get there.
Now, many people, especially those that come from, okay, I would say who have options. You know, educated people normally, there's always that feeling that you have options.
Exactly.
Especially if you had a job.
Yes.
That's the point when some of them would say, you know what, I think the grass was green on the other side, not this side. So what kept you going at that particular moment? And how did you manage now to make the transition from that space, you know, to progress to where you've reached today?
A number of things have kept us going. One of the issues is it's important to have a vision. Or maybe when I say vision, it's a complicated word, but to have an idea of what you really want ahead. That sustains you a bit to another level.
Okay.
I had this business plan. I know that many startups do not have it. But for me, it was a big inspiration of throw it out and know that you've thrown out the billions. Of throw it out, but leather is still here and it is Ugandan. Throw it out, but the demand for shoes is still there. Why? When we opened the shop, it is interesting. You get one person or another says, wow, your shoes, how do you do it? What quality is this? How do you, I would really get another pair. Or actually, I'm going to tell my people to come and get another pair. To be honest with you, that is heartwarming. Okay. To know that you're touching people's lives, to know that you've sold a pair of shoes and someone comes and says, come on, how do you sell these nice shoes so cheaply? That feedback, if you're doing the right thing, like Mr. Ochichi was saying, will always come. And that keeps you moving. But also secondly, like right now where we are, you can't just close shop. You're talking about over 40 people depending on this business, including myself. So how do you close it? How?
No, I hear you.
So in other words, it is no longer about, rather is no longer about me. It is about the workers. It is about the market. The other day when you called me, I was in Kapchorwa district talking to so many customers, previous and potential. And they were very happy to see me. That for me is very heartwarming and shows me that there is a big deal to chase. But also, I should tell you that we have other enterprises that are interested in us. Mr. Chichi will reach an office at 7 and gives you a call and says, how are you doing? Mr. Iga will call you once in a while and ask you, how is business? How is family? In other words, there is a noble cause. There is a noble cause to keep going. Now, there's so many things that keep us going. When we won the kickstart of the 10,000 grant, we had a lot of accountability. One, the committee or the country knows that you have an idea that is just at the edge of takeoff. They have given you a go-ahead. They have given you a nod. Now you can't go back and say I've closed. Secondly, they have given you a seed to go and change the world. How do I meet Mr. Ochichi and say business failed?
Beautiful. And I think
those are very important accountabilities.
I'll get back to the aspect of the kickstart, and I think we'll shed more light for the viewers about that. But there's something you mentioned in your submission about the people that now depend on RADA. That RADA is not just about you. You're a team, and indeed, in the montage you've seen, part of that team. Now, one of the biggest challenges that a number of entrepreneurs face is putting together those teams.
Yes.
And you are in a technical area. It's a business that requires a certain set of skills besides the discipline part of it. Walk us through how you know, you managed to put that together?
And some of the people look older than him.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. To put up together a team is not a small job. I must be honest, it is not a small job. When we began, me and Junior, I exactly knew what I wanted. But I needed to put this idea of what I wanted into this one-man team. Now, for beginners, to be honest with you, you cannot have the Atiam Morris as the production manager. You might not afford to pay Myers Atwine as the marketing manager. You might not pay Brian as the operations. You cannot for beginners. So if you are beginning, you must be the team.
Okay.
You must look at your finances. You need to look at your accounts and finances. You must understand the product. That is very important.
And probably physical health.
The physical health. My goodness.
Yeah.
Because you're everything more.
Yes, you're everything. For beginners, I cannot encourage you to have all that team.
Yeah.
For beginners, have yourself as the team. And then as you grow organically, the business will demand. The business will demand, and the biggest question is, can I pay them? Can I pay? Even where we are, we might not pay the best people on the marketplace for labor, but there are some people that we can pay. So the biggest question, if there is demand here for the marketing manager, the biggest question is, can I pay them? If there is demand for the production manager, can I pay them? But what I realize about managing people, most importantly, is empower them. If you have a vision, as you open it, pull it down and give it to people to pull it away from you. So that when you're not there, there are people to push that vision ahead.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Otherwise, management will be good.
That's an interesting one. I know companies where it's only the proprietor who knows the vision and the mission and the objectives. But Charles,
Very true.
what are your views on that?
Oh my God. Let's go back to the question you put to him and said, what inspired and kept you moving? And it touches some very, very interesting things. But I want to pick one of them, which is extremely cardinal in the journey of an entrepreneur. It goes like this. The happiness of the greatest entrepreneurs is not so much what the customers left behind, the cash, the amount of money, but much more how the customer who has walked out of the business premises is feeling. He painted it so beautifully. He said, when I got the feedback from the customers, I felt I was solving problems. And the moment that is your area of inspiration, a returning customer will be coming happily. Not only will he be coming back happily, he's also an ambassador. Saying, please, you've been buying this kind of shoes here. Please, there are better shoes called Rather shoes. Go and buy them. They cost a bit more, 40,000, but you get more mileage out of them. And the feedback is brought to him. I understand you have better shoes. They are leather shoes. I want them. That customer buys with less price sensitivity because he has been given feedback by consumer.
Beautiful.
That aspect of saying, my inspiration is not so much how much money today I collected, but how much feedback I got from a satisfied customer. Because you have got people with what we call exciting experience. And those people become ambassadors. Ambassadors represent you in a much better way than you can ever do on your own. And there was something else that he touches again here, which he says, please have a long-term vision. Because in the short term, things look rugged. You look out of place. You seem to have misused school fees. You go for an MBA, you finish it, having finished a bachelor's degree, and then you start by putting a simple machine in the sitting room. What's happening in your head? But the man's vision is saying, I'm seeing beyond the sitting room. I'm seeing beyond the simple machine here. I've seen leather in the country. I'm going to convert that leather into shoes. Longevity of what you are seeing makes you walk through all this pain in the interim. And you walk through it without having any fear of getting people's comments.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charles.
Just before, you talked about the MBA, and I felt touched.
Yeah.
When we were started making closed children shows,
Yes.
some young friend came and found me putting on my overalls. It is 8 in the evening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And said, wait, you said you do an MBA? Yes. At Makere? Yes. Ah, okay. And he had a lot of questions. He just stopped it there. This young man came back after 2 weeks and found around 150 pairs of shoes. Someone had made an order and found them there, new, well assembled, and said, wait a minute, Alan.
And made in Uganda box.
And made in Uganda boxes.
I love just that picture. Made in Uganda, and inside the box,
Yes.
pair of brand new shoes.
We were in a 3x3 small room. And so he asked, so is it true that these shoes are made here? I felt like, yes, you've got what we are talking about. You've understood what we are working on.
And just before I forget for the viewers, there was that observation when he narrated on how to build HR.
Yes.
You know, when you're coming from an academic background, you want the marketing manager to have certain credentials. So should a production manager, so should an accountant. The man said, I came from a world of work where there was structure. Quickly, as I was starting a young enterprise, structure disappeared. I was everything. How many educated individuals can survive that picture?
Absolutely. Actually, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges.
It is one of the biggest unwritten roadblocks.
Yeah.
It is right in your face. You sleep with it, and you always say, if I do this, what will people say? Remove all the structure and wear everything yourself.
And I know, actually, on that very point, Charles, quite critical, because I know there are so many people who come from these very structured corporate spaces.
Yes.
And when they try to venture out into the world of business, they literally hang when they find, because at the start it's like mayhem.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have an HR, it's you are your own counsel, you are your own.
And then
basically
you are supposed to get a proper qualified accountant, and you are getting somebody who can just do record keeping.
Exactly.
Surely, are you educated or who are you? What are you doing?
Exactly. And that's the point I want to put to Alan still. Because I know at the beginning you have to deal with, again, those same points.
Yeah.
You have to come up with your own invoices, you have to balance your books. At the same time, you have to market, look for the customers. Then at somewhere in the corner there is URA, you have to file.
Yes.
So how did you manage, you know, to do all that? And anyway, I'll put it simply, and stay sane and continue, you know, to pursue this vision. And then also continue to live some kind of a work social life balance in that kind of setup. And what prices did you pay in the process as well, if there were any?
Yes, so much price to pay. Just before I answer that, I want to tell the viewers, especially the youth, there's this thing that has been going around, that if you really want to change your life, throw out this bachelor's or master's thing that is over your head and hustle like you've never been to school. Hustle like, actually they say, hustle like a dropout. And indeed, if you have to change things, you need to hustle like a dropout. Now, if you talk about how I managed, first of all, you need the money that comes from the official job, a 9 to 5 job. You also need a master's. Because in the due course, I realized that actually my business was much more futuristic than the job. So my master's focused on understanding the art of investment. If you really have to invest, you need to know what you're investing in. And then the business which you've started, you cannot close and retrieve it later. So yes, the price of time, I don't know whether I should get personal, but people meet you, maybe you're dating some girl, they ask you, so where did you go? And you can't explain. You can't explain that I've been in business, I've been running this. So in other words...
And in that particular space of dating, I'm sure you had some...
A lot of experience.
Yes.
A lot of
light
experience.
note, but continue.
Yeah,
yes.
so... you forego going out with your friends because you have left work at 5 and you need to be at your business at 6. And in order for you to have an impact, you need to be there for at least 2 hours. So you are there until 10. You have books to read, maybe. You have to reach there and spending some time. It sometimes sounds inhuman. It sounds like it can't be done. But trust me, where your money is going, you cannot sleep.
Excellent point.
Where your money is sleeping, you must think about it. So the cost of friends, the cost of getting together, the cost of the ability to spend your salary on something you treasure comes very hard. And therefore, for beginners, you must sacrifice a lot. A lot of your family, a lot of your friends, a lot of your time. You must sacrifice resources. You must sacrifice everything to be ahead of that game.
Of the game.
Yeah.
I hear you. That's quite interesting. So now you've begun. I mean, this thing has taken off. You're moving. I know at some point when you're really struggling and in the thick of scenes at the start, you don't tend to get out of attention, especially from those who want something from you. And in this case, I'm looking at friends, probably you're with at school or in employment. You know, they've seen you. Probably they didn't see you actually struggling, but they've seen you when you've ticked certain boxes. You know, we tend to be more visible when we hit a certain threshold of income, business operation, and the like. So how did you handle, because I'm very sure one of the challenges we have in this country is one of employment. So the moment you're somewhere, of course, you're going to have all manner of requests.
Yes.
From a relative, from an uncle who probably contributed school fees somewhere, from a friend who will feel entitled. He's like, Alan is my man. So how do you handle that without compromising your HR or aspirations of the business?
I felt like passing the question to Mr. Ochichi because it is tough paper. Because, I mean, you have friends who are wedding, like he said, you have family which is going to school. But the most important thing is how do you select and maintain focus? It is a big question. How do you select and maintain focus? That when money drops on the account of radar shoes, you look at it, you don't care. You don't care. My friend Ronald normally talks about financial temperature. If money drops on the business account, what changes about you? So in the same case, you must be able to look at that money as none of your business. Because this is a growing business, it is looking for so much money. Someone has made a purchase of 10 million, and now you're looking at it. Your friend needs money for wedding contribution, a sibling needs school fees, and then, so anyway, at the end of the day,
an uncle wants a job.
An uncle wants a, oh my goodness, that one. A relatives want jobs in a field they have no idea about. So the selection and maintenance of focus is very important. For financial management, you need a little bit of diversified financial sources for beginners. Otherwise, you will suffocate. Have some money here, have some money there. Even when I took on Radar full-time in 2018, I kept consultancy coming. I do some work here, I do some work there, such that there is a little bit of a fraction which I will sacrifice, but I'm conscious about it. I know I will sacrifice something because you want to keep some friends here, you can't want to keep some relatives going to school. But that sacrifice can never come from the business financials when you're a startup. It can never. Then about people wanting resources, people wanting jobs and others. Like I have told you from the background of business advisory, when you sleep home, when you sleep in your bed, you reflect. What did I tell Mr. Ochichi to do about HR? Don't employ people without screening them. Don't employ relatives because they are just relatives if they don't qualify. Don't do that. And now here you are, you've brought all your siblings and aunties to do the work they don't know. When you sleep home, you realize that you are doing the wrong thing. And what kept me in that space is I restricted business to a strict business process. If I have to bring in new manpower, they must apply. And for God's sake, Charles, if you come to Rwanda, you will apply. There is no shortcut.
That's a good one.
I could have made a few errors. Now that one I can't deny. Where Charles is a friend. I'm like, but he's calling me and he's calling me. It's like, okay, instead of giving you handouts, you come and sell. But this guy doesn't know, how to describe a product.
And that process is called paying for school fees in business. But viewers, we're going to take a very short commercial break. Charles, when we come back, you're going to digest for us, you know, the key learnings from that. And then we'll also pick, in this segment, some of the questions and comments from you viewers after this very short commercial break. Hello, welcome back, viewers. It's still the Business X-Ray Show, and today we're looking at the story of a manufacturer, and our theme is basically looking at how you can make it, you know, as a small to medium manufacturer in Uganda, because many a time when people talk about business, few of us think about manufacturing. We tend to think that manufacturing is for the very, very big boys or big players for that matter. But if you listen to Alan's story, which we are midway now, you can clearly see that it's possible. Possible only, and I have to put a caveat on that, if you respect certain principles. And he's walking us through some of those principles, you know, attaching them to the journey he has walked so far in business. Charles, I'll come to you. Before we went for the break, of course, Alan had walked us through, you know, certain key areas on that. I don't know what your key learnings are that you can bring us, you know, and the viewers watching.
And I mind a lot about what the viewer is thinking about what's going on here in the studio. And that's why I go for some of these key learnings from Alan's story. Alan said, if you've not put your skin in the game, most likely you'll underestimate and mishandle that enterprise. Friends, if you are watching this show, many of us who have never gone very far, either in our own enterprises or the people that we have assisted, they have underestimated whatever they are doing because they themselves never sacrificed. And that was a key word from Alan. Sacrifice, you have something, put it in the game. Lose the salary. The fellow is earning a tight salary. $500,000, very tight. He can hardly do anything. But he says, I'm going to put it to start an enterprise. He goes to Katwe and picks a machine from there, brings it to the sitting room, paying the price, feeling it on your skin. Extremely important. Then come those elements when you begin to measure up and begin to show some bit of success. Please, this is your own sister. Give us a job. Alan is saying the selection on whom you bring on board is extremely important. Because in the principles that we teach in HR, we say HR is never neutral. Either it adds value or it removes value. Never neutral. Every phase you have in that enterprise, ask yourself, is this one adding value as they walk through the door? Or if they are not, remove them. And doesn't mean you hate them. They are just not adding value in this space. They might add value elsewhere.
It's just business.
Two, if you bring the right person and he makes the good profits, you look after that person who is somewhere else with the profit from this enterprise. So the selection must be informed, as you said, keep the business vision. You are bringing this HR pair of hands. To what extent are they contributing to the attainment of the bigger vision? Now, if you have brought people on board, the next thing is, are you able to maintain them? Are you able to build them? Then it goes to the aspects of now multiple requests for support, school fees, somebody's wedding, somebody's asking this. The ability to say no. When you are being given accolades, we are proud of you. Rather shoes is really big one. But except I've got a shortage of some school fees for one term for my son. He has massaged your ego and he has come with a request.
Become a mzee for graveyard guys.
So ability to say, well, we have a resource that we normally give for such activities, it is done. Yeah. Let's see next year. Yeah. Another option is, I normally have a salary from them, from the business, because you want, and that's what's coming out of Alan's story. Yeah. He has endeavored to separate Rather Shoes from him. Rather Shoes is saying, I have a business to run. I have customers to satisfy. Now, me, the one who's running Rather Shoes, I could actually disrupt this enterprise. Yeah. So separating yourself and being able to say no to sweet accolades associated with requests for support is the mark of maturity in business, and it's walking into it quite early. Because that one remains an ever-present challenge for an entrepreneur in a poor country.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
And there's that aspect of the business, of the temperature.
Yes.
And the money on the business account.
Ability to know that the account, you supplied some 1,000 shoes, and bang, the bank gives you an instant feedback. The man has been deposited.
10 million.
Woo, you feel now, what can't I finish here now? He says, you receive that and cool off.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, what does the business want? And from this money, who supplied me raw material?
Yes.
Have I paid them?
Yes.
From this money, have I planned for salaries? From this money, have I planned for my machine maintenance? You find the temperature beginning to cool off. And the more you experience that, the more you begin to accommodate large figures.
Thank you.
Without getting carried off.
Thank you very much. I think that's well put. Viewers, we're going to pick some of your comments, questions, and suggestions. I'm going to ask my producer to flash that number on the screen, the WhatsApp number, where you can be part of this discussion. Of course, we are demystifying the whole idea of manufacturing, and we are saying it's possible only if you followed some of the principles that Alan is walking us through this afternoon. Now, Alan, again, coming back to you, of course, there's the issue of marketing. You know, when you introduce a new product on the market that has never been seen on the market, it's always tough, so to speak, to actually break through for people to trust, because the area where you sit, I mean, you're selling shoes. Someone wants to buy a shoe that they are sure will last a certain period of time. And again, one of the challenges I believe a number of people see in going into manufacturing is that aspect. How do you sell? Where do you begin? How do you go about that? How do you build that confidence? Walk us through that. How was your journey like, and how did you manage to, you know, break through in that area?
Yeah, it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of learning to understand, most importantly, the product that you sell. Because when you go to the market, you realize there are so many shoes. But the most important thing is, how do you sell the ideas behind your product? Now, for example, if I talk about a Radar school shoe, first of all, it is leather. Now, one thing that should be at the back of our mind is that a leather shoe is breathable. It is natural skin. It is natural skin. It allows air in and out. In other words, you can put on a shoe, and by close of the day, you forget that actually you were putting on the other shoe. But if it is not a leather shoe, Charles, you will remember by midday you feel uncomfortable, you are in a conference, you remove the shoes, you fix them down, because this shoe is not a leather shoe. And therefore, as Radar shoes, our shoes are breathable because it is natural leather. Now, if a kid puts it on, and we know in Uganda they walk 7 kilometers to reach to school, this kid...
And play a lot in between.
Yeah. Now, imagine a very cold morning. This kid is walking 7 kilometers on a very cold morning. And they reach at school. Nowadays, they start school at classes at 7:30. This one who has been walking in hard rocks on a road with stones, and this one who has put on a comfortable leather shoe in class, whom do you think is really concentrating? The one with the plastic tight shoe, or the one with a pure leather Radar shoes? I just need you to imagine that. This kid who is feeling comfortable in the foot, who is feeling safe, will definitely participate, will concentrate in class. And that's something that we really need to teach the Ugandans, that if you buy a plastic shoe, it gets tight with you. If water goes in, it is a problem. It will trigger diseases because the shoe does not breathe. So the most important thing here, the point I'm making, is that whatever product you do, you need to understand it. You need to understand the product inside out, so that when you put it out to the market, you know the story to tell. To be honest, at the beginning, we did not understand shoes to that depth. But right now, when we go to the market and tell them the story of shoes, Ugandans appreciate that these shoes are very good for the growth of their children, are very good for academic performance, are very good for concentration in class. And you can't look any far.
I hear you. Now, moving on, there's the issue of resources.
Yeah.
You know, manufacturing requires resources. There's no doubt about it. I mean, in your story, we're seeing the machines, the kind of machines you have, and of course you have a team, because you can't do it alone.
You can't.
How, one, of course, you touched a little on how, you know, you mobilize the resources that kept you going. Now, I want you to speak to a Ugandan out there who is watching us and their nursing ambitions of going into this area. What advice can you give them about, you know, mobilizing resources to play in this area? What would be the principle to follow there?
The first principle to tell Ugandans is that you must adjust your lives. If you have an ambition of being in a manufacturing space, adjust your life. Mr. Ochichi, I was in an apartment. I adjusted my life to a single room. Yes, honestly speaking, I adjusted because I had decided that I would sacrifice all the resources to that side. Until a point when I was able to say, Rada pays me 2 million shillings and I can go back to an apartment. But from when I started, I saw that life was not going to be easy to mobilize the resources. So I adjusted life to where I could spend less and spend more. As in, it is simple mathematics. You can't eat your cake and have it. It is the same principle of consumption vis-a-vis expenditure. You cannot consume all your salary and expect to invest in manufacturing. You cannot. So you cannot eat your cake and have it. You've heard of that principle.
Yes.
So it is something that Ugandans need to adjust. So when you're adjusting, you have to forget about the evening happenings, going out, because when you get a bit excited, you have to spend the money. These days it is very easy with the card. So that adjustment is very important.
And there are very many enablers.
So many enablers. Yes. So you must know where are you focusing, and if you take this step. In other words, life becomes a little more calculated. I'm going into this. So what does it mean if I go into it to my finances? If you are in manufacturing. But then the other thing that is very important is that you must keep adding more and more finances into your business without getting tired. Because the manufacturing space is that it is capital intensive. You need a lot of money. You need so much machinery. You need so many workers to pay. So if you want to play it big, you need to make sure that you keep adding. Like I told you, you buy a machine, first keep it. So if you are buying another bigger machine that you don't imagine the business will pay off once. We've had cases, Mr. Ochichi, where we send money to a Chinese and say, okay, if we get the balance, we shall send it to you. And they have been so patient and good with us. They have been very good with us. They wait, you get another money, another 10 million after 1 month, and then you send it. You get another 20 million. Before you know it, it says, wait, now you can actually start processing. We ship your machine. And it goes into the bond. They say they can keep it for 3 months. You say, fine, I'll keep it for 1 month. And I look for more money to clear it. That incremental investment is very important.
It's quite key.
Very important.
Now, there's the aspect of loans, because most people, when you talk about manufacturing, the first thing they will think about, I can't have that kind of money. maybe I'll go into borrowing and that kind of thing. What would you advise?
Before I advise on the loans, I want to take away this whole, young people call it vibe, of there is a vibe around the youth, and therefore the youth come first and must be financed. My brothers and sisters, you won't be financed. You won't be financed. You need to decide and finance yourself. Otherwise, you will be frustrated. You go here, they know, you say, okay, fine, put your business plan here, we shall get back to you. You go in another place, they say, all right, put your business plan here. Do you have a proposal? Before you know it, you've spread it everywhere, and you're seated waiting for finances to come through.
Which never come.
We must invest in ourselves, because after all, they are our businesses. The issue of loans is very interesting. We've dealt with finances from all sources. We know that there is finance from individuals, where Mr. Ochichi says, okay, Alan, I am going to give you 1 million. Please bring it back after 1 month. And sometimes Ochichi will close one eye and say, okay, let me give him another month and see whether he comes. In finance, we call them fools. He doesn't exactly appreciate what you're doing. Now, to be honest, we have had so many fools of that kind. Not fools per se, but someone gives you money and says, okay.
No strings attached.
No strings attached. But he feels like you have ideas. Secondly, we've borrowed
Others
money.
call them angel investors, I think.
Exactly. Otherwise, we've borrowed money from money lenders. Hey, if you've never borrowed from a money lender, I don't know what borrowing means. Before you know it, the rate of money application, Mr. Ochichi, I'm a financial expert, but I can't calculate it. If it elapses 3 months, you will be in hot water. They are the ones who know the formula. We've borrowed from microfinance. Circles. We borrow from a circle in one of the circles around, and their money is good, but they will finance you up to a certain level. Beyond 100 million, even 100 million, really, by the time they give it to you, you have displayed your case so well. Otherwise, they don't want to risk beyond 50 million. Now, when it comes to the bank, you need, now, to be honest with banks, especially in my experience, you need land title as collateral. If you have land title, you will have a bit of a discussion. You start from there. Now, if you are a startup like Rada, you don't have land. We recently acquired land, yes, but previously we didn't have any land. You cannot have a discussion with the bank. To be honest, with the bank, you must have collateral, which in most cases, 90% is the land title. Now, I wouldn't encourage a youth to start a business because you have a good idea, because you have a well-written plan, and run to the bank to ask to borrow. Why? Where you're going to put the money, you're not very sure. Bank finance is only interesting if you are using it in working capital, putting it in material and sell it out and expand this market. But if you borrow from the bank and you want to buy a machine, we bought a machine of over 80 million, and after 3 weeks of working, it collapsed. We spent another 5 months of not using it until we imported the spare from Italy. Now, what happens if it breaks down? Or whatever you expect it to do, it doesn't do it exactly. That means there is a technology failure, and the bank needs their money, even as you talk. So it is better to get the money, invest it in raw material, invest it in marketing activities. That is where you can go right with the bank.
Beautiful, beautiful. Charles, I'll bring you in on that. Quite important aspects there on resource mobilization.
He has touched on very key buttons in his submission again. Let me just quickly touch on the issue of marketing. When he said that, please do not be the one who is casual about what you are selling. Get deep, get grounded, know the key differentiators of your product. because it's in there where you now bring out what we call value for money. That phrase is so beautiful, but we want to hear by the way he said, the child I've just given you the shoes for, he's going to be more attentive in class, he's going to be more proud in class, he's going to be more comfortable in class, as opposed to somebody who has got burning shoes, rubber shoes. That is brilliant. At that point, somebody says, let me delay a little more, and I'm going to get the right shoes. So value for money requires the seller to first and foremost know exactly what you are selling. Good. Now, in terms of resource mobilization, when you talked about lifestyle, there's a phrase normally I like people to appreciate and reflect upon. It says that if you get cash, and most of the time you become a customer, as opposed to becoming a creator of customers, forget financial independence. You've gotten cash, but the moment the cash is in your hands, you are now saying, where do I buy something right now? As opposed to saying, how do I invest this and generate another 2,000 customers next year, next month? If you have never managed that, and that's a lifestyle issue, an ability to control and manage money, it's a very, very key point. But then he touches very beautiful things about loans. But the summary of everything that he has talked about loans is that the kind of loans, the conditions that you go through is a reflection of who you are. If you are a nobody, they are going to take you through stringent rules to make sure that their money doesn't come. I mean, does not fail to come back. If you have been able to get a land title and you have been having a market that people are lining up to buy, they are saying, please, why do they even come and knock at your door? That Alan, we've seen the way your account is going. Can't we give you a working capital of 300 million? You have not even gone to ask.
Mr. Ochichi, that is happening now.
There you are. There you are.
Are open to discuss with
lenders that you get a reflection of your situation. Work on your situation, the lenders will be different.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, I think that rhymes with the question here from Chigozi Method. He's actually asking, Alan, thanks for the information shared. What was your experience in accommodating huge sums of money, and how have you maintained that when big money comes in?
The traditional amount was 500,000.
Yes.
Now the thing is in hundreds of millions.
Now, that's a very important question, because money grows, and every business looks forward to making $1 million shillings, make 10, make 50, make 100, make 500 million. Now, from me, like I said earlier, I'm from a background of financial advisory or financial expertise. So I learned, I honestly must be honest with you that I read the book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It is so basic, but it gives you so grounded rules of business.
Very correct.
So by the time money comes in, to be honest, sometimes for beginners, you sleep and you remember that you have actually a lot of money. But you have this business plan, and you know exactly where money is needed. So amidst the struggles of this, there's sometimes what I call peer pressure. And Mr. Ochichi, when you awarded us $10,000 US with your colleagues, some of my friends whispered to me, this is the best time to buy a car. I said, wait a minute.
That was under the Kickstart.
The Kickstart project. With the partners.
So, in other words, you must be able to select and maintain the focus of what you want amidst that financial temperature, but also be able, going forward, to look at money as stock, because which business does not have the stock of money? You cannot survive. You should be able to move forward and start looking at money as stock.
Beautiful.
You have money in your drawer, you have withdrawn 50 million, maybe because they are transactional money, you are not able to transact it in the evening. How do you put it in your drawer? And you sleep peacefully. That is a very important principle.
Because actually he raises a very important point, Charles. Well, we have quite a number of questions coming in, but there are many people who become restless when money is around. And it is a reality, and I think our viewer is asking from that kind of background. And I'm sure you got the answer. good to be focused and have a plan sometimes.
Yeah. Very true.
Yes. Now I have.
If you don't have, just sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
If you don't have a plan for money,
Yes.
Yeah.
and it comes by,
Yes.
my God, you'll squander it.
Yeah.
Very true.
So I have Stella here. Stella Itama is saying, my question is, how do you manage to deal with this stressful, actually, people who are dishonest. I'm having a challenge pronouncing that word. People you can't trust.
Yes, yes.
He's saying many Ugandans are non-trustworthy, give excuses, always coming late to work, and the like. How do you handle that? Briefly.
That's a very good question. Now, I would like to encourage Stella that if you must do business, other factors constant, you must learn to trust people. Otherwise, you'll break down. Imagine in an environment where I have Mr. Woji, I don't trust him. I have Mr. Chichi, I don't trust him. I have someone behind Junior, I don't trust him. I have Morris there, I don't trust him. You will not sleep. And your business will not grow. So in principle, other factors constant, learn to trust people. Because when you trust people, you will lay back and believe that things will be done. But secondly, at Rada Shoes, we have very hard principles. I must say they are very tough. Because the principles at the point, and every time we sit in a Monday meeting where we have a widely important goal meeting, we normally call it a WIG meeting, widely important goal. Every Monday, the principles are at the back of our room. One of the principles is, for example, individual accountability and responsibility. If you don't deliver to that 2-3 times, we'll ask you to come and we talk. Why aren't you being accountable?
So you are hearing what he said, other things constant.
Yes.
Those are the things he's talking about.
Yes.
The goals, the deliverables, the targets are clearly spelled out.
Exactly.
Once those have been done, I trust you'll do the job. I'm going to leave you to do the job.
Beautiful.
That's the point. That's the point.
Given home well.
Yes, if you trust the people and you've laid down what exactly need to be
Those
done,
things,
and you can measure them well, the people will deliver.
Done.
Good one. Now I have Ronald. Ronald is listening in from Uganda. He's saying, thanks for the business X-ray. The issue of UNBS is a bit of a challenge, especially for the startup. How do you handle?
Ronald, the UNBS is one of the regulatory organizations where you must have certain standards in place, certain licenses in place. Now, to be honest, if you're a startup, it is very hard. But if they come in every so often, it is very easy to sit with them and say, UNBS, we are still developing our product and it is still in the process. I think honestly you need to give us another 1 year to look at our product, refine it and be able to come to you. I think that is very important. But also going forward, when you have a UNBS mark, which you already have, it gives you a certain level of authenticity in the market. Yeah, we can always have a discussion. Of course, there are a few issues. Sometimes the charge is a little high. They recently reduced. And so many other regulators. But those regulators, Mr. Ochichi, give us another step in business.
Beautiful.
But if you are not able to acquire the step immediately, you can sit with them, don't hide from them. Sit with them and agree that at this point and that time, we shall be ready. Please give us time. They will listen.
Thank you, Alan.
I just wanted to make a point here that the man that people are watching and seeing talking here is wearing some very beautiful shoes. And those shoes deserve to have been seen by the camera.
Actually, they're being seen down below the table.
There you are. Those are the shoes. If you see the way they are finished, they are so beautiful.
I'm going to ask my cameraman to zoom
and
them
these
at some
are
point.
rather shoes.
Yes. Yes.
I thought they just needed to know it, that the man is wearing breathable shoes.
Yes, yes.
From Rada.
Yes.
And as my cameraman zooms, Charles, there's a question here from a student of Mkozi University.
Yes.
And this is coming to you. He's saying, how do I manage my business, which I want to start next year of selling poultry? I want to first put a worker for the start. Will the idea of leaving the business with the worker a good one or be good?
I will stretch that question now to any other person who wants to start a business. The first thing is you, the person behind the business idea, must be as grounded, as deeply knowledgeable in that enterprise, much more than you start talking about a worker. Once you know exactly what it takes to start poultry, and poultry also has got several areas, you've got to focus and say which one. Are you going to be in poultry about dealing on eggs? Are you going into poultry about meat birds? Are you going to poultry about local chicken? Are you going to be in poultry about the meat chicken or the egg chicken? Those ones are all important, and for each there are minimum key success factors. Master them before you can even start talking about HR.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
I have another one for you. This one is from Frank Mob. He's saying relatives are a real business nightmare. Never ever have them as employees in your company. There's too much complacence. I lost all, including furniture, when I was away and left it to my relatives. What do you say, Charles?
Relatives are human beings. Let me start from there. They are like a John, a George, a whoever elsewhere. They come with one thing though. There's that feeling of saying this is uncle's business, and they have never known to separate between uncle and the business.
And the business.
It is now you, the owner of the enterprise, to say, I have this business, it has got its customers to serve. Do you have the necessary credentials? If you don't, do you have the desire to learn those credentials and be part of this team? If you don't fulfill this, get out. This business is going to be run by somebody else, and if it makes a profit, I will support you as a relative at a distance. That's okay. So beginning to appreciate that, first and foremost, that human beings called relatives come with certain assumptions that if it is my uncle's business, he will be sympathetic with me. If it's my uncle's business, he will always understand my situation. Let the so-called owner of the business, where relatives are eyeing, know that that business does not know that he has relatives.
Beautiful.
And from that perspective, bring anybody who comes on board only if they can add value.
Beautiful, beautiful. Alan, I have James Salemi. He's one of our ardent viewers here. He's saying, how do you deal with these erratic power blackouts? Yeah, how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a big challenge. I must be honest that between 2015 and 2018, the power was very erratic, was a big problem. But over the years, I think around 2019 there until recently, there has been a bit of stability. And sometimes you have to look at it, which lines are stable and which are not. Sometimes you have two lines running, and then there is one which is stable and another one which is not stable. So you need to know which actual line is actually more stable. But also, importantly, power doesn't tend to go off at night. And you have to leverage the night shift. The night shift becomes very important. Now, I can't be honest that we leverage it so much. We also use part of it. But we are aware that at night, it is rare that to reach one and power goes off. It doesn't happen. So he needs to look at which lines pass near us, and also look at possibility of extending production in the night shift.
Thank you, Alan. That's
and just
reality.
to pick up from his answer, many would have just thought, why don't we talk to Meme? Why don't we talk to government? There is a role of that level, but get something you can solve, handle within your own means.
Beautiful.
This night thing, you can do it yourself. Tell the team, you know what, it is erratic, but at night nobody stops us from coming to work. You work.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Now I have a quick, it's a comment actually, but I thought we could actually, Charles, weigh in on this one. He's saying, I wish to appreciate Alan for knowing the very best principle of business, separating self from the business. That is to say, business is a partner, not a source of revenue. I find that quite deep.
Wow.
It's a deep one, and it's a very, very cardinal area many of us struggle in. Because we as human beings have been created to desire to be recognized. And because we want to be recognized, there's a way we want to cross the line and start picking monies that are related to the enterprise. The money you are picking, there's a supply you have not paid. The money you are picking, there is a bank that you have not paid, and the bank is not watching and saying, please, you're about to take my money. So that discipline comes with appreciation, with first and foremost, who are the stakeholders of the business? Number two, do you have what we call the systems on how resources are attached and deployed?
Yes.
And if those principles are there, are you the first to obey them? If you disobey them, are you the first to say, I disobeyed and I apologize? Let the entire team know about it.
Okay.
Very important.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have Byron Setimba, Alan. He's saying, what advice do you give to someone who is a student but running a business?
That is a very good space to be in. You are a student and you're running business. I should mention to you, Mr. Woji, that my first business was a bar, and it collapsed hands down.
Okay.
I didn't even secure that seat or a crate. But it is a very good space to be in. Because you see, Mr. Chichi, when you're a student, at that young age of 25, you can afford to lose $1,000.
Yes.
And you swallow, and life goes on normally. Now, when you're at 45 or 50, you can't afford to lose $2,000.
Yeah.
You can't.
So where he is a very good space to take the lessons personally, to be grounded in business principles, and also to be there. The only thing I request him is that he needs to dedicate a certain period of the day to be at his business and to learn. But also, he needs to attend to the seminars. Because I attend seminars thinking, what am I going to add on? But before you know it, there is one or two things which become very critical by the time you leave. If he attends to those, gives time to his business, and also affords to take the ground practical lessons, should be very good.
Beautiful. So, Alan, at this point, just as a way of wrapping this up, I have a viewer here who's saying, where can they get Rada shoes? In other words, your outlets. But then,
shoes.
as you do that, just touch a little on the tips or the aspects you picked from Enterprise Uganda. I know the discussion, you've kept touching them here and there. Just a digest of that as we wrap it up.
If he goes into www.radashoes.ug, he'll have all the contacts that he needs. We are available, radashoes.ug. You can find us. Our factory is in Bweyogere. We can have a conversation on social media. Just write a message anywhere of those, we'll get it. Regarding the tips, the number of tips. One, if you are starting or running a business, have the big picture. Have a big picture. And Mr. Chichi normally says, have a scary picture. Which will not leave you in bed at 5. That's how we manage to keep sober.
To keep you awake.
If you have a big picture and you find that you're still turning at 6 or 5:30 in bed, your picture is not big enough.
Not big enough.
It's not big enough. But also, going forward, break it down into activities. Now, those are the things which Enterprise Uganda have taught me and my teams, which we thought they are so small. Have small activities of the big picture and keep track of them. How did I do this? How am I going to do this? Now, I must be honest that during the Kickstart, for example, they said develop a budget. They said, how do you develop a budget without resources? They said just develop a budget of the things you wanted. To be honest, we tracked it in about a year. By the end of the second year, we had financed all the budget in excess of 100 million.
Interesting.
Don't tell me how. That is what the power of having a plan vis-a-vis getting resources that you didn't expect. If you get those resources and you have a budget, you will put it to good use. If you get resources and you have no budget,
It is a different story.
you will not believe where the money went.
Thank you, Alan. Charles, kindly wrap this for us.
Very interesting discussion this evening. Business X-Ray will never bring a similar story at any one episode that we bring here. And I want people to recognize today we have that word value addition or manufacturing. Very scaring, and looks like it should be FDI. Foreign direct investors should come with it. Only to get an Alan here who was earning a salary of $500,000 and he begins walking into this space and is selling 200 brand new shoes every day. In a market which is over-dominated with all types of shoes around. I want to give hope to everybody watching this show that please make it a date. Make it a must watch. Because whatever we bring on this show is practical. Yeah. The story of Alan demystifies so many things. You can have all the papers, it's okay. You have limitations of cash in the beginning, it's okay. The only person lending to you money is a circle or a money lender. That is who you are for that moment. Yeah. But then you can also see how some of the basic principles get repeated, but worded differently in each episode. For example, rely on your resources as your most important starting point and continue to rely on them. And then always have that bigger picture to keep you going through all these valleys and mountains, because they will be there in business. I thought that was a very good way of ending this show. Indeed. And welcome many more Ugandans to watch every Sunday.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And apologies to our viewers. I've seen quite a number of messages which we didn't have enough time to really answer. But the business x-rays are going concern, like a business. So we'll actually attempt to look into those next time. I've been your host, Charles Boji. Alan?
Mr. Charles, I should tell you that in the next 2 years, we are determined to produce 2,000 pairs of shoes per day.
Beautiful. 2,000
pairs of shoes. It is not very ordinary manufacturing, but it is no longer as scary as it used to be because we have the machines, we have the manpower, we have the experience to take this on. Beautiful. And we are determined to change the face of the footwear sector in Uganda.
Excellent.
Until next time, have a good evening and God bless. Thank you.